Globalization is not a policy. Most people over 50 can remember a time before the internet and mobile phones when it was easy to believe that people who lived far away were somehow different from those in your own neighborhood. Today, in terms of travel, the whole world is smaller than France was 200 years ago. In terms of communications, we're all neighbors. The symbiosis between people in a network of international trade is not something conjured up by cigar-chomping business people, nor the grand design of public officials. The term globalization is even unfortunate because it implies a monolith. In fact, it is the product of at least three independent developments. The first one we have already discussed: information and communications technology, ICT. International trade has increased because it's possible to discover sources abroad at low cost, and the status of shipments can be determined in real time. Even language barriers can be surmounted these days. The second development is in materials handling capabilities. Prior to the late 1960s, ships were loaded with gantry cranes, cargo nets, and brute human effort. Containerization changed all this. Containers allowed ships to be loaded and unloaded faster, and more importantly, enabled containers to be routed to and from rail, meaning faster shipping times. Containers also reduced in-transit cargo damage, making shipments more reliable and lowering insurance costs. Today, 90% of ocean cargo is transported by 900 million containers. The final change, and the most important, began in the 1980s with a renewed emphasis on cost management, starting in the automotive industry and spreading elsewhere. These ideas, refined by Toyota's Taiichi Ono, originator of the Toyota production system, were originally exported from the US to Japan. This management renaissance led many to consider unfamiliar, less costly sources. Technology and the availability of low-cost, reliable shipping made this practical. As discussed in a different video, once a competitor embraces this direction, others must follow to remain competitive. It was this confluence of factors that caused what we sometimes call globalization. Yes, governments cemented various bilateral and multinational agreements, but these were responses to a phenomenon already underway. Business people understood that extended supply chains were more precarious than familiar ones and susceptible to capricious government policy changes. The goal of these trade agreements was to create reliability and increase trade to raise living standards globally. Is this a good thing? Generally, a system of global trade that promotes mutual interdependence and familiarity is good. However, because cost management drives it, there is no loyalty to a single source, and the pursuit of ever lower cost jurisdictions persists. Trade agreements that limit national governments' discretion to respond to their electorates add to the complexity, explaining why some resist globalization. Can it be undone? Probably not, at least not quickly. The dislocations that occurred cannot be easily reversed, and the global network of ships, ports, and rail are established based on familiar trade patterns. Changes would precipitate dislocations, something popularly elected governments are loath to do.